The first meet of eyes, the magic of the wand, the first soft caress, I took her hand. The first leap of joy, I wrote her name, and first was the sorrow, the tide washed the sand.
Auden said, "A poet is before anything else a person who is passionately in love with a language." Welcome, viewers, to this entirely new and different edition of Sip and Talk with Vikram. Today, we have a guest who's a doctor of heart by profession and he is a scholar by passion. Welcome, Dr. Anand Ahuja, to Sip and Talk with Vikram.
Thank you so much, sir. And those are really delightful words. Absolutely music and poetry to my ears.
As Somerset Maugham said, that the crown of literature is poetry. So, how essential is it, doctor, for somebody to be a master of the English language first to write English poetry? Uh, is it required that one should have read English classics or mastered the rules of grammar? How is it like you are a doctor, a medico, and you are a poet as well? So, just give me some confidence to talk to you about poetry.
Well, it is far more simpler actually to write poetry. You do not require a mastery over the language, grammar, syntax, so to say. These are technical aspects. But what you need is a profundity of your feelings or thoughts or your emotions about a particular subject. If you connect with the subject, words would come. And now with the digital era that we have, there are lots of support systems available online and offline which can help you finish your poetry to perfection. Say for instance, before the internet era, you would have it would have been necessary for you to have all the technical know-how. I started writing poetry almost 15 16 years ago, so yes, that time
Wow.
I did learn about all these things. But today, I can write a poem on a subject that you want me to write on, provided, of course, that I connect with it at the drop of a hat. I'll give you a poem and I can finish it with all the necessary syntax, grammar, everything, rhyming, even the meter, because there are now apps available which do that for you. I did not use any of them because my poems have been written long before these things were there. What I feel today is that the depth of poetry can only come from your heart. The other things will only augment it, or they will only enhance the impact. If you don't have it inside, the other things will look artificial. Uh, because poetry is all about writing the maximum things in the fewest words. So for that, you need to have a very very deep emotional connect with whatever it might be.
So thank you for giving me the confidence that we can talk about poetry to you. And as Plato said, that poetry is nearer to virtual truth than history. And I hear people wondering whether poetry is fiction or non-fiction, and I think poetry is just poetry. What do you say about that, Dr. Anand?
Yes, exactly. Poetry is just poetry. There's no other way that you can define it, because you can have poetry in horror, you can have poetry in non-fiction also, you can have philosophical poetries also, you can have romantic poetries also. So, poetry does not restrict itself to any particular genre. Poetry just stays poetry.
Brilliant. Let me show to the viewers what your book looks like, the one that you are going to bring about soon. Dusty Memories Unfinished, an Odyssey through nuances of unrequited love. It's a lovely looking cover with a crescent of a moon and footsteps on the sand. Congratulations, Doctor, for writing such a lovely book. And when are you going to release this?
We are just at the threshold of that, and in a couple of days time the book will be out.
I'm so eagerly looking forward to it. I wish I could take a peek into it.
Of course, certainly, it would be my pleasure to share with you. In this collection, I have tried to section various poems as per the feelings or stages of love, because this talks about unrequited love, but there is not a single shade of bitterness or negativity to it. Everything is taken in the most positive spirit, and that's the beauty, because although it is unrequited, it is not unfulfilled love.
Oh,
The title itself, like dusty memories and unfinished. Everything, all the three words, I've thought a lot about them. Dusty because they are dormant, deep inside, they're buried. You get over so many things, you get back to your normal life, but they still remain alive in your heart. They are dormant, but they are not dead. Those memories, and they are unfinished. Unfinished has is a pun here. It has two meanings. Unfinished because they are incomplete, and they are unfinished because they are undestroyed also. So
yeah,
yes,
that's a good thought.
it's unfinished. So I'd like to share with you a very beautiful poem. It's very close to my heart, and
So
it is
nice of you.
about. Thank you, sir. It is about contradictory nuances of first love. We all know about our first crush, our first love. Unfortunately, for most of us, it remains unrequited. A vast majority of the people do not continue with that first love to be the last love. But despite that, it remains special, and you never ever forget your first love, because that is the first time you quit the previously mundane, normal life of early childhood, and your first surge of hormones through adolescence, perhaps, that it brings you into a completely new, surreal fantasy world. The emotions can be positive, negative, the expressions or the experiences could be good or bad, but whatever they are, they remain special to you. So, this is what I talk about first love in this poem. I'd like to share with you. The title is
Please,
First.
please. Yeah.
So, the title is First. First was the love, first was the sight, first was the time I cried all night. The burden on the heart, the weight on the soul, first was the moment nothing seemed right. First was the letter, first was the song, first was the call, the wait so long. The first shower of rain, the first leaf of spring, first was the time I quit right for the wrong. Quitting right for the wrong is changing the conventional. Now you're not just following or being an obedient boy, but you're quitting what conventionally people call right. So I quit right for the wrong. The first meet of eyes, the magic of the wand, the first soft caress, I took her hand. The first leap of joy, I wrote her name, and first was the sorrow, the tide washed the sand. The first waits anxiety, the first sights courtesy, the first dreams fantasy, the first touch ecstasy, the first letters legacy, the first dates secrecy, the first feels mysticy, the first loves fallacy. First was the pleasure, first was the pain, first soft comfort, first hard disdain, first rise of desire, first dip of despair, and first wisdom of life, first love insane. A first solitary tear in the first solitary night, and a solitary me in the chilly frostbite, and in the first hazy, unaddressed sky, a first unsailed, unanchored, solitary kite. Thank you.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for reciting this on this channel, on this episode with us.
Thanks a lot,
And
sir.
viewers, I hope you loved it. Please do comment how much you loved it. And those who are watching for the first time, please subscribe. Please hit the bell icon to stay notified. And yes, keep posting your comments as you're watching. So, Dr. Anand, as John Ciardi said, you don't have to suffer to be a poet. Adolescence is enough suffering for anyone. So, what's your take on that? I mean, the sufferings of adolescence.
Yeah, I completely agree, because the turbulences, mental, emotional turbulences that accompany adolescence and the new surge of hormones, that makes you question almost everything, question the traditional things, the convention, question the norms, is good enough impetus, a good enough stimulus for you to create poetry. So yeah, that's no wonder that most of us begin writing poetry around that period of time. I also did that,
So
but
maybe
that
you
was
can add
when
on with some.
mature.
Maybe you can add on with some, your personal stories, if you don't mind.
Certainly, when I would go back to the 90s during my say phase of adolescence, and when things suddenly started changing, and I felt, I can distinctly remember that everything happened almost dramatically, and it was like quite sudden. I was about 16 years of age when things, I could perceive things inside me changing, and that translated into my changed view of the outer world also. I started staying more aloof and more thoughtful and more introspective, reflective about everything. I challenged everything that I could see, think, read, hear. And that was also the first time when romance started brewing in my head. For romance to brew, you do not need anyone to trigger that spark. It just starts. I believe in love at first sight for a reason, because when you start visualizing about, say, the love of your life, you create a mental picture of that love. It could be in terms of just the looks, it could be in terms of behavior, nature, character, everything. And when you meet someone who kind of resembles that image of love that you have previously created, it fits that template, you instantly fall in love with that person. And therefore I strongly believe in love at first sight. Yeah, some people might consider it is infatuation perhaps, because you never get to know a person inside out at first instance or in the first meet. That is okay, well taken. But then people do fall in love at first sight.
So, as you said, you don't really need someone to express your feelings about love, and it comes from within because of your hormonal or whatever changes in life that you are going through. And likewise, Wordsworth said that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin from the emotions recollected in tranquility. So, going by that, it is a very intense and very powerful and distilled use of words. So, how does it affect you as a person when you start writing poetry or start writing a book on poetry? How does it impact you from within? Because all that turmoil is happening within.
Exactly, sir. Actually, the writing process is quite draining and exhausting
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally. I remember I used to write three, four, five poems, and sometimes you're so overwhelmed with those thoughts, you just don't want to stop. I have written four, five, six poems in the same day. These are only the choicest few collections out of my huge stock of poems which I've written. The best I feel they are, but I've written so many more of them. Secondly, your day-to-day life, like I'm a doctor, so all these things keep you distracted the entire day. You are occupied with patients, you're busy, you're doing other things. So these things stay piled up in your subconscious. And in the night time when you are free, all these come back to you with a double force, a double vigor. I have been sleepless for nights altogether because I've been completely drained and soaked in the thoughts and emotions of the words which I have myself created. A lot of my poems I have written around midnight. Sometimes I have written poetry or thought about poetry while I have dreamt about poetry, and I have woken up and I have written them.
Oh,
Uh,
that's great.
while driving my bike or driving a car, I would get an idea, and not just an idea, the words would start coming to me, and I have written poems. So in all bizarre situations, you never know where can an idea strike you. You just remain open to it, remain susceptible to it. I would say rather remain vulnerable to it, because it is not going to come just by itself as a word. It brings in a lot of it brings with it a storm of emotions. Like when I write sad poems, I have also written philosophical poems, I've written poems about life and poems about death. They completely squeeze out every single part of your body and your thought, and you're exhausted. There's nothing you can do. You just submit yourself to it and just relish that experience. It's a very, very fulfilling experience. That process is quite painful. That night you don't sleep, perhaps for 2 or 3 nights you keep getting the same thoughts and ideas. Fortunately, the distraction of my day's work would help me, but if someone does not have such a busy day, then it is quite difficult.
I can
But it's
understand it.
worth it.
It gets very haunting, I believe. What do you
Absolutely,
say?
yeah.
Yeah.
Haunting is the
And
right word.
yeah, and when we read about Mirza Ghalib and all, and they used to spring out poetry out of pains in the heart, and the love is lost, and that incites poetry into them. And then you are talking about generating those emotions within. It is something beyond a common person like me can understand.
No, sir. The very, conditionally, romanticism or romanticism in poetry has been looked at from a very narrow point of view, that people only talk about romance in the form of love between, say, two lovers, or the lover and the beloved. But poetry far transcends or surpasses those ideas. You can create poetry about virtually anything, even a tube light or a fan or a lizard or a rat. It could be anything. I have written abstract. I don't write more about these concrete things, but I have written poetries about the smallest abstract things. Say, for example, say during Diwali, if you're just cleaning your room, and while cleaning your cupboard or your drawer, you come across some old pictures, some letters, some memorabilia of the past, and that one instance immediately takes you back. If it's a good thing, it might bring you smile even if you were sad, and if it was a sad thing, even if you're cheerful, you might get a tear. And if there is someone else also in that room who watches you and asks you what happened, you just have nothing to say, and you'll just say just nothing. So there can be a poetry just on that I've written. So there are plenty of ways you can get poetry.
So while I let you take a hot sip of coffee, let me ask the viewers, what do you say about, you know, poetry springing out of your heart? Have you ever tried it? Please type in right now. Poetry is the mother tongue of the humankind, no doubt about that, and I'm believing it more and more as I am talking to you. So, as Alfred Lord Tennyson said, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So, and there were so many people who have, you know, sung that song as covers. So, Dr. Anand, what's your take on that?
Absolutely. I would fall in love 1,000 times and get heartbroken 1,000 times. I would not mind it, because from that, you get a sense of fulfillment of having lived a complete life. You fall down and you get up. It's like the waves of ECG, I would say. You don't want to stay a flat line. It is okay to fall. It is okay to get up. It is okay to fall again. It is okay to get up again. But I would never mind, falling over and over again.
ECG was such a lovely analogy from a cardiologist.
Yeah, that comes very spontaneously.
So, what about, what is the real meaning of love? I mean, unrequited love means something your expectations did not get fulfilled, or love is about expectations, or what is it exactly?
Well, I'd like to quote a very famous writer, Kiran Desai here. Kiran Desai, in her book Inheritance of Loss, defines love very beautifully. She just says one line: love is everything between the desire and the fulfillment. All the emotions, all the good, all the bad, everything, but between. It starts at desire and it ends at fulfillment. So, what remains unfulfilled, the love remains unfinished or undestroyed. It continues on. So, love is everything between the desire and the fulfillment. Shelley has a very beautiful definition of love. Love is, he says that love is a prayer that the heart lifts above and the heavens reject not. A
Okay.
desire of the night for the morrow, that is love. So he's given a lot of definitions, but these two are very special, I feel, especially Kiran Desai's, starting from
That
desire and
that
the.
also reminds me about Jules Renard saying that love is like an hourglass with the heart filling up as the brain empties. So all this is coming out of the brain and filling into the heart. So yeah, that's
Absolutely.
a lovely take on that.
Beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
So Turkaka Tasso said that true love cannot be found where it does not exist, nor can it be denied where it exists. मतलब जिसको आप
Absolutely.
हिंदी में बोलते हैं कि इश्क और मूर्ख छुपाए नहीं छुपते.
Okay.
So like a layman like me who cannot write poetry, what is the best way that a person can express the feelings?
Well, I would say everyone can, or rather should, attempt to write poetry, because you give an outlet to your heart's feelings. You don't hold things inside. A very easy way to write poetry is just take a sheet of paper, think of anything which is close to your heart, which you connect with very well, and just write anything or everything that comes to you. On the second instance, you have a relook at it, and you like kind of refine that lines, refine those words, you concise those words, you find one strong word for 4 or 5 weak words. There are so many steps, maybe I can take you through, but then writing poetry is not difficult. I learned all these arts, including writing in the right meter, what are the various syntaxes available, how do you rhyme, what are the patterns of rhyme. My favorite is A B A B B C B. That was very famous with Robert Louis Stevenson.
Mhm.
So I just love that. And how do you continue a story in a poetry? For example, in Hindi movies, many times a song is used to take the story forward by many ways. Sometimes, people get married, they have children, the children get up, and everything goes on in one song. Same way in poetry also, you can just change the rhyme pattern to show the continuity. I have used this in this the poem which I described. Everywhere there is a different rhyme form, but in one of the stanzas it is like a pattern. It shows continuity of the same feelings, like dot dot dot. So it is amazing to explore with words, and to be able to find the right words to kind of match the emotions that you want to express. And when you get that right word, it's wow, that's awesome. Like
Absolutely.
I think you might be talking about number of words, like when you write prose, but
Mhm.
for poetry it's that one word. It's not about the quantity. You
Yes.
sometimes just wait for that one word to strike you, and when you
That will
strike,
be the
then
essence, the
eureka.
soul of that poet. Absolutely.
Absolutely, sir, absolutely. And when you hit that, it's like a eureka moment. It's amazing.
So you rightly said that one should always try writing poetry. Like Charles Baudelaire said that always be a poet, even in prose. So I mean that is something like you can play one up on anybody in terms of your intellectualism, or what's your take on that, Doctor?
Well, I feel, when you try writing poetry, you will start hunting for the strongest word, the right word, the best
Yeah,
word
yeah.
which expresses. So it would help you be a better prose writer also. Or forget even writing, even in communication, you will be able to communicate your exact feelings with the choicest, fewest, but the best looking words. You will not be too wordy. You won't have to be preachy or give long didactic lectures. Just 4 words and you'll be through. So yeah, poetry is everywhere.
Yeah, minimum use of words and maximum
Absolutely.
impact.
Yeah, minimum
So,
words, maximum impact.
but then
Uh,
I read so many poems nowadays which neither do rhyme or nor do they have a structure, but they call it like a modern concept. So, I mean,
yes.
and some lines I even have heard somewhere, read somewhere. So, as Eliot said, that immature poets imitate, mature poets steals. What's your take on that, Dr. Anand?
Yeah, there's a lot of contemporary usage of what people call free verse. Like if you write a traditional poetry, you have to keep hunting for that right word, which not only expresses your feeling, your emotion, but should also fit in the meter
Rhyming scheme.
or in the rhyming scheme. So you have to have a match. Unless that match is there, you would either compromise on your feeling or you would compromise on the rhyming. So if you don't want to do that, you just write free verse. You don't bother about the rhyming, the meter, just nothing. And you just write exactly what comes to you. Uh, Traditionally, conventionally, it would not be taken as a serious poetry, but now today is very well accepted. There are a lot of poets today who are just writing free verse. And I tell you, it's far easier to write free verse because then there are no rules to follow. You just play football without having a goalkeeper. Just keep hitting wherever you want. There's no goalkeeper. Just have a goal. I've tried writing, and you don't have any. You don't need to follow any necessary, even grammar pattern. The best part about poetry, the easiest part, grammar doesn't bother you. You can write whatever. There is no problem. I tell you, a very nice four-liner I written.
Yeah, yeah, please.
What's about like it's about destiny. Lives disconnected, apparently disjoint, but destined to meet one day in future. Ripples set forth to converge and diverge, to once collide sometime in future. That's it.
Oh,
So
lovely.
again, there'll be a four-liner poetry. So yeah, there are no rules.
There are no rules, but
Yeah, there are no rules.
what I can understand from you is you have to bring out the essence in the best possible words. There is a thesaurus of so many words for a word, and you just have to bring out the best out of it.
Exactly. And sometimes you have to have the right flow of words. For example, let me just share you one more poem. The poem is just very simple. It's just called Ah. The title
Ah,
is Ah. That's it. just see, it's something as simple. You would also feel connected. Like,
I'll take a sip and
sure, sir.
yeah, I'll
So
listen
it's
to
just
you.
a very simple line. Glanced, couldn't see. Like, glanced but couldn't see. Saw, couldn't meet. Met but couldn't be with. Been with, couldn't die with. Oh, the complaints I have from life. Ah, the desires I have of you.
Lovely, lovely. That's a beautiful one. Viewers, what's your take on this? I need a comment from you right now, right here.
So
Thank you,
yes,
Dr. Anand, for reciting
thank you.
such lovely
Yeah.
poems on this show. And I'm sincerely looking forward to reading your entire book from page one to the end. And what I also would like to hear from you, a word of advice, which is the right way to read poetry.
Yeah, that is again, sometimes, we don't see a lot of people take any particular interest. As such, reading is sadly taking a downturn in our country. But and poetry, very fewer actually. I think the last time people ever read poetry was in their school textbooks, perhaps never again. So I would really want people to take up poetry reading or poetry appreciation as seriously as prose, because poetry, you don't need to be an avid reader, you don't need to have a good, like, flamboyant reading speed also. You can just read one poem, just study line by line. You need to read a poem two or three times to absolutely understand the
So
essence,
and
to soak
absorb.
it exactly. Because in the first read, you would only appreciate the outer things, maybe the rhyme pattern, how recitable a poem is, its meter, its syntax, all that the mind or the eyes will appreciate. But for the heart and for your soul to appreciate, you have to go through it again. There are certain words in a poem which tell you where does a complete point of view change, like the perspective changes. There are certain keywords like however, but that is where the poem takes a turn, sometimes a u-turn, sometimes there are twists and turns. There are thriller poems also, there are fantasy poems also, and there are horror poems also. So if you are a lover of these particular genres, if you love sci-fi novels, I'm sure you will be able to find this that kind of thrill even in poems of that genre, without your having to read 300-400 pages, maybe just one or two page poems. And but yes, you need to read it two or three times. First time you recite, you enjoy the words. Second time those words start touching you. Third time you touch them. And
Oh, that's beautifully put. And I also, have an analogy of perfumes. You have the top notes, then the middle notes, and the base note. So as it matures slowly, the notes reveal. Likewise, when you read a poem slowly, try to absorb the real meaning of this word, it just flows out slowly. What do you say?
absolutely, sir. Yeah, yeah, completely. In fact, I would request everyone, whenever you read my poems, like, read it for one or two or three times. And after that, after you have read a poem two or three times, do not go to the next poem straight away. Let that poem linger on in the back of your head. I am sure it will present to you in many different experiences. Every one of you would have a different flavor, because you would perceive that poem from your own point of view. You will create an imagery or fantasy in sync with your own beliefs or with your own experiences. And that is how you will enjoy each page or each poem. So there are some 90 odd pages of poetry there for
Oh,
you. And if you really want to enjoy every single drop of that, just let that poem be in your heart for a while. And when you've
so
had enough of it, go to the next one, because
a
each
poem
poem
a
has to
day,
be careful.
a
Yeah, a
poem
poem
a
a
day,
day. Sometimes even
but should not keep the doctor awake. Keep him in your heart.
keep in the heart, please. I would really appreciate you to share with me how you feel when you read those poems. And if you have any ideas, I'm happy to like, correct, amend, or I would even be happy to write a poem for you. If you have something to say, if you have something to feel, something to express, I'll be very happy to write a poem for you. I'll do that for you.
So take that cue, viewers. If you want to hear a poem or read a poem meant for you, type in here. I promise Dr. Anand will revert to you.
Absolutely. Whatever your feelings are, provided they're good feelings, I will write something for you.
Thank you
I've
so
written
much,
on
Anand.
all various stages of love. If you see the Arabic concept, there are 7 stages of love, right? From attraction, infatuation, romance, commitment, trust, madness, and then last is death.
Oh,
So I have also classified. Now I've tried to made another classification for unrequited love, and I have segregated these poems into 5 such sections. So when you get to a particular section, you don't need to exactly read in a particular sequence. Like from, you don't need to go from 1 to 2 to 3. There are various sections provided in the index. You can see which one you connect with at that point of time, go directly to that section, savor the poems, let them stay in your heart, and then you move on to the next one. The poems, the book's always going to stay with you.
and Dr.
Sorry.
Anand, if I see Ramayana, it's also written in a prosaic form, and it is such a huge volume of poetry. It is a humongous work.
Absolutely, sir. And in fact, I must tell you, I'm sure you are aware, not just Ramayana or Mahabharata, which is the longest written poem till date. Even today, no one has written someone as complex. But our Sanskrit language was so suited. People say that, it is very well suited for computers. But let
Mm.
me tell you, it is so much suited for sciences, mathematics, the discovery of zero, all the theories of Aryabhat, all the theories of Sushruta, all the theories of all the philosophers, everything has been in verse form. All the Vedas are in verse form. All the Upanishads are in verses. Even mathematical equations mentioned by various scholars 2 or 3 millennia ago, they've written everything in verse form. Everything is poetry. So even mathematics can be poetry, even physics can be poetry, and India has shown this to the world. So we are the home of poetry.
And the best part is that here in Sanskrit, it is not a rule that whether the subject should come first, then the verb should come, or it can come either way. It can begin with the verb or it can begin with the subject, and that's how it makes it so beautiful.
Exactly. And one thing very different about Sanskrit from English is each letter, each alphabet in the Sanskrit has a strong notion. So the meters in Sanskrit words are based on the number of letters per line.
Yeah.
Whereas in English, you don't have each letter having a strong, pronunciation or a strong impact. So you have meters as stressed, unstressed, stressed, or unstressed, stressed, stressed. There are so many different forms of meters. The most popular are the decameters or the pentameters. Now they depend on the sounds of a word, not individual alphabet. But in Sanskrit, we have such strong alphabet. Each letter is important. So you have the classical 17 word verses in which most of our texts, the spiritual texts, have been written, or the poetries of Kalidas. They all have 17 words, 17 alphabets. Sorry. So
So viewers, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon, and do keep posting your messages. I'm sure you will be meeting many more brilliant personalities like Dr. Anand. And Dr. Anand, before we part with you for the day, tell us, you are a cardiologist, you are a doctor of the heart, and poetry is a lot, things coming from the heart. How does writing poetry or reading poetry, does it have a healing effect, a curing effect on the heart, or is it just that I believe it so?
no, sir, I completely agree with that. In fact, poetry or literature in general has been a big ointment for me. The medical profession, where you deal with sickness, misery, pain, and suffering every single day. Every day you meet scores of unhappy people. No happy person comes to see you. No happy person even rings you. So the only thing you get to experience is the dark side of society. And that is a very, very draining experience. All the doctors in their formative years go through a lot of depressive phases. And I'm no different, so I also been through. But one thing which helped me stay sane was my love for literature in general and poetry in particular. That was what stayed with me, and it was a very, very good companion. They say books never cheat you, they are your best friends. They can share your happiness, they can share your sadness, they never let you down.
So true to that, and I thoroughly believe in that. God
Thank
bless
you.
Dr. Anand. Keep up the good work. We hope to hear and read more poetry from you in the times to come. And for today, thank you for being on the show. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, friends. I hope you enjoy my poems. Please write back to me whatever you feel, how you connect with them. And if there's anything, any poem you wish me to write for you, I'm always there for you. Thank you.